Hi, welcome. Welcome to UUCP, Universalist Unitarian Church of Pensacola. I don't say it much because it's a tongue twister, but welcome. If it's your first time, we're so happy to have you. If you're returning, welcome back. We loved you, we missed you. Hopefully we'll see you next week. My name is Mary Beth. I'll be your service leader today. Again, I'm so happy that you're here. I want to take this time to remind you to turn off all of your devices, all the things that might make noise. That would be greatly appreciated. So I'm going to share a few words with you while Laura comes up and we'll light the chalice lighting. So just to point out that we are Universalist Unitarians. Oh, Unitarian Universalists. Thank you, Unitarian Universalists. With minds that think, with hearts that love, and hands that are ready to serve. Together we care for our earth and work for friendship and peace in this world. So that's a good little summary of us as Unitarian Universalists. Thank you. And I've got some... let's do a little, before we do centering music, I'll invite the choir up, and we're going to do, what, did I forget something? Yeah, y'all can come on up, and we have some centering music that was written by one of our own, Farron Collins. It's called Meditation, and she said meditation is one of those things that came through rather than from me. It is meant to be universal, but it is structured in a pagan way. So, Joe's going to lead us in a little meditation music. And it's a call and response.
Peace of my awareness, I open my mind to your light. Peace of my awareness, I open my mind to your light. Light of my being, I open my form to your joy. Light of my being, I open my form to your joy. Joy of my devotion, I open my heart to your grace. Joy of my devotion, I open my heart to your grace. Grace of my existence, I open my life to your strength. Grace of my existence, I open my life to your strength. Strength of my spirit, I open my soul to your peace. Strength of my spirit, I open my soul to your peace. Thank you, and thank you, Farron.
Thanks, Joe. If you'll stand with me now, we're gonna recite our covenant, but we do have some opening words, and by Charles Enoch Wheeler, just some quick words. It says, "Let the knowing speak, let the oppressed tell of their sorrows, of their salt and boundless grief, since even the wise and the brave must wonder. Let those who can endure their doubts speak for their comfort, of the weary who weep to know." If you'll say our covenant with us. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. If you'll stay standing, I will invite the choir up, and we'll do our opening song. It's number 150 in your old gray hymnal, All Whose Boast It Is. And while we're flipping, I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, "I hear you, I see you and I appreciate you. Okay, we're gonna sing the children out if you'll help me in my. Lovely, thank you. Okay, we've sung the children out, and now it's that time for offertory. So if you're not familiar, we fully support ourselves. Although we're not alone in the Unitarian Universalist world, we are, solely responsible for us. So anything that you can give, whether it's time, talent, or treasure, we're going to take it, and we're going to be super grateful for it, and we're going to love you for it forever. But at this time, we want your treasure. So I'll invite, if you have time and talent that you want to give, see me after, and I'll point you in the right direction. But we'll get the ushers to come, and they're just going to pass around a basket while Mike and Ray play a little ditty. Thanks. Thank you. I love a ditty. Okay, now it's my privilege to introduce our speaker. Chasidy Hobbs wears many hats at UWF. She's a faculty member in the Earth and Environmental Sciences Department, the first ever director of conversation and director for the UWF Community Garden and Argos's edible campus programs, which is super cool, love it. However, today she comes to us wearing a different hat as president of the UWF chapter of the United Faculty of Florida. So please help me welcome Chasidy Fisher Hobbs.
I wish we had a director of conversation at UWF. We could really use that. It was conservation. I hope you will humor me to share a story before I dive into all the fun stuff I came to talk to you about. When I first read the email asking if I was interested in coming and sharing, I had a series of just a few thoughts over the course of a few seconds, but it might take me a little longer to share what those thoughts were than a few seconds. My first one was, do I really want to spend my Labor Day weekend at church? Do I want to share this message? And I was like, well, it was Scott Satterwhite who suggested me, so they got to be kind of all right folks there, so. And then the next thought was I had a memory from way back in the day before becoming a mother during my exploration and experimentation years, where I did a little what religion am I test. I had bad experience as a child with religion, so that's not something I really brought into adulthood, but I was curious. And the first one that came back was a humanist. And I was like, oh, heck no. I'm not calling myself a humanist. That sounds exactly the opposite of what is in my heart, right? So I was like, what's next? I'm not even going to look that up just because I didn't like the name. Of course, now I realize that I very well connect with their teachings. It's just the name didn't work for me. Very close second was Unitarian, Universalist. And I was like, see, now that's something I could get behind, right? Unity, humanitarian, like that's a good name, right? So I was like, okay, I remember that, and I was like, all right, I can do this. So thank you for having me today. So I was asked to share what kind of issues faculty are facing, labor issues that they're facing. And it is unfortunately not a pretty picture, so I'm afraid I don't have a whole lot of positive things to share, but I do have some really important things to share. The first, I wanted to share a quote from Chronicle of Higher Ed. That academic associations face critique for political statements. A new report from AEI, that's American Enterprise Institute. They are a think tank. Yes. A growing wave of conservative criticism suggesting that academia should avoid taking a stance on contentious issues. And I highlighted the word contentious because pretty much all of the issues that faculty are facing currently in this environment are indeed quite contentious. For example, it's okay for a university to voice support for Israel. It is not okay for anyone at the university to voice support for Palestine or even the calling for and support for both, right? There is a strong effort to, just like the reason why I made my title 1950s to 2024, there's a big push to, it's not moving, here we go, to try and root out Semitism and other things within higher education, which, by the way, is an incredibly important thing that we should all be focused on, and is certainly an issue that we do not want anti-Semitism being taught within our schools. just to give you as an example, some other examples. The first kind of legislation that I wanted to bring forward that's kind of come out of this contentious issues within academia is SB 26. And this law has a very far reach. It actually governs quite a few different things that are related to our faculty labor. The first one is it basically says that universities aren't allowed to teach degrees, to have degrees which involve race and gender studies. At UWF, we do have a women's studies program. So far, we haven't heard much about this provision. We are expecting that to come. They're focusing on basically all the other provisions at the moment. So this is a law governing university and college systems. The second thing that it does is it basically gives the presidents of universities and colleges essentially final say for issues related to terms and conditions of employment, frankly, with faculty. And so what has come out of this are two main things. The first is what's called a post-tenure review. And so now all universities and colleges are required to come up with a policy around continuing to evaluate. By the way, faculty are evaluated every single year, right? So there's that. But then to have an additional larger evaluation even post tenure. At UWF, we're very lucky because we actually already had a very similar stipulation within our CBA, our collective bargaining agreement. We called it sustained performance evaluation. And we negotiated that as an opportunity for faculty to continue to be awarded raises in support of the good work that they were doing. So we already had SPE approved in our collective bargaining agreement, and essentially all we had to do was kind of tweak a little bit of language to meet what the Board of Governors said we had to do. No other university in the university system had that, and there are battles between administrators and faculty unions across the state that are fighting about this. Most other universities are not allowing additional money once you go through that evaluation. The second one, and the one that hits closest to home as president of our faculty union, is an arbitration ban. It is in Florida's Constitution, our right to collectively bargain, and within that is our right to have an arbitrator or someone outside of the university decide between if the university and faculty union can't come to agreement, have someone outside of that to decide, what is the policy and what should happen, right? There are some limits on that. This law removes that. This law says, nope, the university president has that final say. So I don't think I need to say too much about that, but the next one prohibits activities. This is one I feel like most people have probably heard of outside of academia, but basically DEI is not allowed anymore. State funds at the University of West Florida cannot go to support anything that is diversity, equity, or inclusion related. Yes, I'm not lying up here. And then the last issue with this particular law is that now general education, those are the courses that all students, across the state, have to take as part of their bachelor's degree, right? And those match throughout the university system what those are allowed to be. Well, now we're not allowed to, on the list of required courses, we're not allowed to include anything that doesn't prioritize neoclassical education focused on Western European civilization. And the effect that this had is sociology, you know, how we study about each other and how to live with each other, and one of the most important qualities that we are currently lacking in this society, that's no longer allowed to be a required Gen Ed course. Because you talk about race, and you talk about gender, and you talk about all those other ways that humans define themselves, and apparently that's contentious. So we're not allowed to do that. I will say all of these different parts of this rule are being challenged, some in both state and federal court. Some of them we are waiting until some action is taken before we can be able to challenge it. But you can rest assured that, you know, the Florida Education Association, which the United Faculty of Florida are a child of, is going to be challenging all of these and more that I have to share. This is the latest one that really hit the news, if you will, that once this school semester started, due to some very unfortunate wording of 2 test questions for a class at, I was going to say I'm not going to call them out, but for a class that I won't mention verbally, 2 students were offended by these test questions and felt that they were anti-Semitic. And so a lovely representative in Tallahassee that has really been gung-ho about union busting and DEI busting as hard as possible got word of it and went to the governor. And the governor went to the Board of Governors, which governs all of the university and college systems, and said, we need to do something about this. We need to root this out. And so every school in the university system got a directive from the Board of Governors that said, we need you to search every single one of your syllabi and every single one of your textbooks and see if any of these potentially anti-Semitic words are found. And you can see the list of what it includes. Here's the challenge. Like, this is obviously illegal and discrimination, and I'm pretty sure that they know that. Challenges to rules can't really happen until some action is taken, right? So we can't challenge them collecting a bunch of data, but what they do with that data is when we can get in and fight, and we certainly will be. There is strong encouragement across the state to remove these words from the syllabus and to reconsider what they're teaching. So it is absolutely having an effect on teaching across the state. I won't read all this, but this is obviously academic censorship. We have every single collective bargaining agreement across the state has academic freedom rights for faculty put in there. These are contracts that we have with the university. This is clearly a violation of our contracts. So we will be pushing, and different organizations, frankly, from both sides of the political table, are beginning to come forward saying, "Whoa, this is probably going too far," and so we'll see how this plays out. This is a big one that faculty are dealing with, again, really focused in this year. SB 846 basically says that universities in colleges are not allowed to enter into partnerships or agreements with other colleges, universities, or foreign principals, so that would be other faculty, in a specific list of countries without first going to the Board of Governors and getting permission for that, essentially. And so faculty across the state are having to report if they are working on grants, partnerships and agreements. I mean, what faculty do is research, and we don't just research ourselves in a little bubble, right? Research is better, teaching is better in a collaborative way. So basically, most of what a faculty member would do involves collaborations with other faculty. And if there are other faculty that are from any one of these lists down here at the bottom, all of those activities, according to the Board of Governors, must stop. They need to report those activities to their university. Their university will report those activities to our Board of Trustees. Each school has their own Board of Trustees, and then our Board of Trustees will take it to the Board of Governors in order to get permission for that individual project to move forward. The shortest that's going to be is probably 4 or 5 months if everything perfectly fits into, right? So obviously, grant cycles, funding cycle, none of it works within that. And so this is also, our attorneys are preparing to be ready to challenge this. Again, we're in the same situation of we don't know what to challenge yet because they're just collecting this data and they haven't really said what they're going to do with the data. They haven't told faculty what will happen, what the criteria are for them to be approved to move forward with that. They haven't given any kind of timeline that would happen. It's just a matter of collecting data at this point. Once they decide what they're going to use for that, do with that data, the actions that they take with that data, then unions across the state will be challenging this clear, I'll leave my political opinions out of it, clearly ill-fated law, hopefully. And then the last, big thing is that, there's, Florida has, our Tallahassee has prided itself in wanting to do union busting across the state. And they've made it very clear. It's not this secret agenda even. It's a clear agenda. And that is because, our unions are very effective at fighting for fair, equitable, and just terms and conditions of employment for our members and our freeloading non-members as well, because we do that for all of them, right? And so because collective bargaining and the right to have representation is something that is written into the state of Florida's Constitution, they can't just simply say, you can't have unions. They can't really do what they want. But what they can do is make it much, much more difficult and continue to move the goalposts about how that unions can operate, how they register, what they can and can't do, what the requirements are for them to even be a union. And so this has been one of our biggest battles and ongoing battles that still continues. There are several challenges to this because actions have been taken already. So hopefully the courts will agree that with the clear language in the state constitution. I might need you to go back. Okay, no, sorry, I don't. So what it did was basically the limitations broke down into 4 different areas. So SB 256 requires, these are the additions to the already long used registration process through PERC. Faculty unions and teacher unions are registered through PERC, the Public Employees Relation Committee, which, by the way, are governor approved seats. Keep that in mind. So basically, what they said was all members of an employee organization must sign a membership authorization form. This is a new piece. So it's not enough for a faculty member to be paying dues to a union for them to be considered a member of that union by the state. Now there's this additional form. Is it going to be digital? Do we have to hand do it? When are they due? We don't know any of that information yet. The second part is that unions must stop taking union payments when a member is no longer wanting to be a member. Well, we already do that. I mean, we don't take money from folks that don't want to be members. So that was just silly. Then they said also, it's too easy for you guys to be able to have payroll deduction for your union membership. So we're going to say you're not allowed to do that anymore. That's within the law, they could do that. And so last year we had UWF, UFF, we had a handful of months to get all of our members from payroll deduction dues paying members to what we call e-dues, which is essentially a platform where they can self-pay, and it doesn't go through payroll deduction. And by the way, all of these restrictions are only for university and teacher unions. They're not for police unions. They're not for firefighter unions or any others. It is teacher and faculty unions that are susceptible to this. The others are exempt. And then they revised the requirements of how we re-register. It used to be, there was a clear form and we submitted our financials and all the documentation that we needed. We submitted that to PERC. They got back to us relatively quickly. Yes, check mark, check mark, check mark. You're recertified, carry on for another year. Well, they added a whole bunch of new processes within there. Some of them quite complicated in an attempt to make it much more difficult to re-register. One of our members said to me that really stuck. He said, the folks in Tallahassee do have a lot of power, but they don't realize that we have much more staying power than they do. So I think that is soothing to know that this can pass and we'll continue to fight it, hopefully. And then the last thing they said was, it's not enough for you to have a majority of faculty paying dues. Now, in order for you to continue to be able to just re-register every year, you have to show that at least 60% of your unit are dues paying members. That one's tricky. That one got UWF, UFF in trouble last year. During that switch over from payroll deduction to e-dues and then crazy complicated nightmare that was, we fell below that 60%. And so we actually will be required to do a campus-wide election. All faculty have the option to choose One, do you want to continue to have UFF, UWF be your representative and keep the current CBA that they have negotiated for you? Or two, do you not want a representation? And so then it would be each faculty member for themselves, basically. And by the CBA would go away, because our collective bargaining agreement for faculty is between our union, United Faculty of Florida UWF, which we are elected by members of our union. We're elected by the faculty of UWF to be the representative. We will have that election. There's no example in Florida where unions where the faculty or teachers voted to get rid of their CBA. It just doesn't happen, right? And so we're not very concerned about that. It's just another hurdle that we have to jump over as we're trying to also navigate our own terms and conditions of employment, right, within our university. The last thing, this is not so much a legal issue. This is more of something you will probably hear a lot more about, but AI is an incredibly useful tool that I'm a bit of a Luddite, I guess, am not interested in learning about this tool very much, but unfortunately it is something that is here, and it is going to transform education in a way that hasn't been done probably since Google, I would imagine, and Microsoft Word. That's going to really, we are in the habit of assessing how well we've done teaching our students by things that they write and turn into us that we read as like proof of that, right? And the use of AI can absolutely help us to do that better, but we don't really have any guardrails up right now. And so how artificial intelligence helps us to be better educators, we have no idea at this point. This is quite new. And so really all faculty are in this, as students submit papers that clearly is not in their voice, what does that mean for our assessment and how we put an accomplished value on that, right? And so I just I have zero answers for this. It wasn't in this semester I finally said, okay, pull your head out of the sand and figure this out. But it's definitely something transforming education, not only in higher ed. So you'll be hearing much more about that. I think that's all I have. Yes.
Can you take? Thanks so much, Chasidy. Appreciate you sharing. It's been enlightening for sure. Yeah, we'll have the choir come on up if y'all want to stand with us, if you're willing and able. And we'll, in the gray hymnal, we'll do number 359, When We Are Gathered.
We are gathered for a time of worship. Spirit shine like stars.
We have some closing words if you want to remain standing, and then after service, after dismissal, we'll have some goodies and coffee and water just over here if you want to stay and socialize. But if you could, hopefully you can read that, and you read the bold parts, and I'll read the other. And this is by Angela Herrera. So don't leave your broken heart at the door.
Bring it to the altar of life.
Don't leave your anger behind.
It has high standards, and the world needs vision.
Bring them with you.
And your joy and your passion.
Bring your loving.
And your courage and your patience.
Bring your need for healing.
And your power to heal.
There is work to do.
And you have all that you need to do it right here in this room.
Thank you. You are dismissed.